lot of preaching has been made about Shimon Kepha, Simon Peter, walking on the water.
Hmm.
Mike, in Matthew chapter 14, before we ever see him stick one foot outside the boat, we need to be reminded that it had been a long, arduous trip of rowing against wind and waves that allowed them to get nowhere. They were frustrated, worn out, exhausted, but obeying the command of Yeshua, which said, go to the other side. When Yeshua shows up walking on the water, it's Kepha who says, if that's you, tell me to come out there to you.
Mm-hmm.
I've often heard it said only one man's ever walked on water. Well, actually, there are two, because Shimon Kepha actually did walk on the water, at least for a while.
Yeah, his was a little shorter.
A little shorter, a little less
shorter walk, but
a different experience.
Yeah,
Well,
in the end, he's the only one that got back in the boat and was wet. So.
Yeah, well, I've often pondered the thought, for all of his zeal and radical steps, he didn't influence anyone else to get out of the boat with him. It was just him.
Wow, you had to go there, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, Mike, I want to set you up a little bit here.
Great.
Laura and I went to see the Jesus Revolution movie Sunday evening. And I was expecting the standard Christian spiel scenario, storyline of a lot of different things. And I sat and wept, choked tears at several intervals, because of one thing, it sparked memories of that particular movement back in the early 70s. I remember that movement. I remember what it did in a very powerful and positive fashion to the local family church. There was a quote unquote hippie revival that took place in Martinsville. And the hippies that we used to pass by laying out on the ground in parking lots and on top of cars and those kinds of things that were very visible. A large group of them ended up in that church, and it radically changed it. Instead of rejecting them because they were long-haired, weirdly dressed, and barefoot, they were loved on, accepted, and they melted in. But I walked away wrestling, as we say in Grassy Creek.
Yeah.
With House of David has not numerically grown in a long while. We've always blamed it on the building. Could it be, Father, I am not willing to be radical enough, cutting edge enough, different enough, accepting enough, whatever the reason might be, to allow you to do what you want to do? I guess it comes down to this question, Mike. Can we just do the typical Hebraic roots Shabbat service once a week and sing, circle dance, teach the Torah, light the menorah, and have oneg and expect it to radically change our community? Or is Yeshua saying, you're missing me? I'm about the crowds and not the formulas. So when I say crowds, I'm not talking about just doing whatever it takes to get a crowd. I'm talking about the people. I'm about the people in your community, and not your formula.
Okay. So here's my take on this. I want to go to one word you just came back to in just a moment. But first of all, yes, we can continue to do what we've been doing. And I deal with the same thing at Life Assembly. I think that congregations no matter the size of it is, it can be a larger congregation, but they're dealing with the same issues. Are we growing? And what is that growth? Is this basically the same people that have been in this part of the country moving to this part of the country, and that now is considered growth? No, that's that's
Transfer.
that's not really growth.
That's just a transfer of location. Then.
Yeah. It's like you got two bank accounts, and you take some money out of one to put in the other, and now say that you have more money. but look at this account. I mean, yesterday this account had $100. Today it has $500. Wow, I'm really doing well. Well, okay, but what about the other account that had 500, and is now got nothing in it? Oh, well, don't look at that. That's not what we're talking about. So growth can be an interesting thing to begin with. The other part of this is, you said the word crowd. Is it possible that we're looking for a crowd and not a person? Let me explain that one here, Lucy. So the latest greatest, and I mean the Jesus revival, revolution, whatever that was in the 70s. Let's just say that it impacted you more than it did me. I was kind of heading in a different direction in that day. I remember kind of one or two statements regarding whatever was happening. It was totally irrelevant to me, and I knew nothing about it until the mid '80s, when I started to listen to people like Greg Lowry and Chuck Smith and Skip Heitzink and Raul Reese from Calvary Chapel. That was the first thing that I had ever known about that. So, the only thing I really knew about Chuck Smith is he was kind of like a twin for the captain on the Love Boat. That was as relevant as it was to me. So through the last years, Barry, what I've seen is, okay, Brownsville is going to change everything. Well, the truth is it didn't. Toronto, it didn't. Smithton, it didn't. Asbury, it doesn't look like it's going to. The Passion of the Christ movie, that's going to be it. No, didn't do it. Now here's another movie. I'm not down on the movie. Not dissing the movie. I haven't seen it. Probably plan to, but I've got to go out of town this weekend and teach. So are we looking for an external something to do the job that we're supposed to be doing? Let me tell you, Barry, I want to give you the formula. I want to, what would happen this next Shabbat if House of David doubled in size? What would happen? Would you be in trouble regarding your building size?
Probably. Parking would be a major issue. If there were a lot of children in that doubling, those who would be situated to minister to them would be overwhelmed.
Okay.
What it would be exciting and encouraging, and hopefully, the problem is, Mike, and this goes for any church or congregation situation. The rule of thumb is you will only hold about 70% max of your capacity, because people will come and excitedly sit on top of each other for a few weeks. And if plans are not shown that we're trying to get out, expand the walls, or do something, you're going to start losing because of discomfort.
Okay. So if this Shabbat, and let me give you a week break, okay? let me give you a week to prepare for this scenario. And that is that not this coming March 11th, but on the 18th, House of David doubled in size.
Uh-huh.
On March 25th, House of David once again doubled from what it was on March 18th. Are we in trouble?
Yeah.
Okay. So would you like the formula for you to have that kind of trouble?
Sure.
Okay. Here it is. Every person in the room brings someone. I'm done. Every person that is a member of House of David, Jacob's Tent, Life Assembly, Gates to Zion, Beit Menorah that I'll be at this weekend, Beit Or that I'll be at this weekend. Everybody that is there, do your job and witness to one person in such a way that they desire to be a part of what you're doing. Quit looking for somebody else to do my job. Hollywood, Angel Studios, this book, that teacher. No. How about every person? Just go out and talk to one person and bring them. There's a formula, Barry. It's not that, I mean, go into all the world and make disciples. Matthew chapter 28 does not say, come up with a movie about me. It says, no, you go into all the world and you make disciples, which means that as you're making them into disciples, they're going to come to House of David to listen to Barry Phillips, who is going to help them grow in their faith. That's it.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and especially in this context that according to what was done in the book of Acts, and I've been struggling with this for the last week or this week. There were those who were among the Goyim, the Gentiles, who had found Messiah, heard the message of him, and by what I read, they were born again. They had accepted Yeshua as the Messiah of Israel. And they wanted to hear the teachings of Moshe, which meant they needed to go to the local house of Midrash or synagogue, whichever the case may be, the local house assembly. And the Jews were saying, okay, well, what do we do with these people? This is a cultural invasion that we were not anticipating. This is a doubling of us. And now what do we do, as you were alluding to?
Mm-hmm.
So the Noahide requirements were stipulated. If you're free from sexual immorality, idolatry and unclean meats, blood, etc., that can come and sit with us and hear the teaching of Moshe every Shabbat. The understanding was then they would hear the Torah taught. They would understand what a mikveh was or is.
Mm-hmm.
They would understand why be circumcised. They would understand why we abstain from the things that we do, why we engage in those that we do engage in, and the revelation of Yeshua to be found in the Torah, that they would understand this one who's redeemed me from my sins. This is who he is. After a year, men would be circumcised and mikvahed. Women would be mikvahed. And they would become a full part of grafted in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That was the understanding. I've used that model in trying to encourage my congregants, you go find people outside House of David. You know, the typical denominational marquee in town is y'all come.
Yeah.
Some soul saving, quote unquote, message on the marquee, y'all come. Anybody can come.
Yeah. Let's just put a sign out front and everybody's going to walk in. You know, sign broken, come inside for message.
CH blank blank CH, what's missing? You are.
You are. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That one just reeks of spirituality. Oh, just sends chill bumps. I mean, really.
The open door policy has not been what I have promoted in the House of David. It has been, you go find them, you lead them to Messiah, you bring them, and we will help them to grow as a congregation.
Mm-hmm.
I will teach them. When I see, obviously, this is someone new, someone who's not been exposed to our style and presentation of the word, I go back to a very basic presentation, knowing who's sitting with us, and no one folds their arms and says, well, I was looking for something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
No, everyone understands where it's at and what we are doing. And even at the basic level, you can still learn.
Well,
so Mike, I've been struggling with the idea of, Yeshua, am I limiting you? Should we be allowing any and everyone to come in, turn this into a quote unquote a soul saving station here? Or were the early believers in the book of Acts, did they miss you? Just because it's written there doesn't mean that every decision that they made may have been the right one. What is it that we need to do here? I don't want to limit you. Yeshua, you were found not so much in the temple every day. You went there, but the majority of your time was spent out among the masses, among the common man.
mm-hmm.
And you were even accused of associating with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Not afraid to do that. But our mechanics, I guess it comes down to, okay, are we radical enough in our mechanics? Are we willing to push buttons, to move walls, to take steps that will be more fruit bearing? Have we limited ourselves? Those are the questions I've been dealing with this week.
Okay. Well, let me give you let me give you a twist. I won't say it's interesting until after I say it. Then you can tell me if it is or not. Okay. Let me give you a twist on this whole thing, Barry. I don't think the problem's us. Okay. I think we need, and here's where I'm going to put
there, Mike. Say that again.
Okay, I'm going to put the blame somewhere else. Okay, this is not our fault. Okay, it is actually someone else's, and so I'm going to put the blame exactly where it belongs, and that is on God Himself. Okay, you follow me?
Very, very carefully.
Okay. So I would like you to consider, Barry, that the Almighty has done a terrible job of marketing Himself. Okay, and it's to keep this very spiritual. I'm going to go to this week's Torah portion. So it's this is when Moshe goes back and he cuts the 2 tablets, and Moshe ascends to the mountain. It says that Yudhe-Vavhe descended in the cloud, and he introduces himself in a new way of Yudhe-Vavhe, and says he is merciful and compassionate, slow to anger, rich in grace and truth, showing grace to the 1,000th generation, forgiving offenses, crimes, sins, yet not exonerating the guilty, but causing the negative effects of the parents' offenses to be experienced to their children and grandchildren, and even to the 3rd and 4th generation. So here's the introduction that Yah has of Himself, that I am the God who is merciful, compassionate, slow to anger. I've just got so much riches of grace and truth, and I forgive your offenses. And Barry, how boring, how absolutely boring is that marketing approach? I mean, if the Almighty had come down onto Mount Sinai and said, "Let me tell you, I'm the greatest stupid cat trick you've ever seen. I'm a fuel additive that will get you 100 miles per gallon. I'm a self-stick pan with lifetime warranty, no limitations." The masses would be flocking. See, it's the problem that he has never figured out how to market himself, Barry.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, tongue in cheek, of course. But folks, let's face it. If he was a stupid cat trick, you would share it on Facebook more often than you would the video Foundations for Life. If he was
Yeah.
a the nonstick pan, the diet plan, guaranteed to lose 20 pounds in 30 days or your money back, you'd be sharing it all over social media. You'd be telling your friends, your neighbors, your acquaintances, person standing in the line at Walmart that doesn't want to talk to you. You tell everybody about this. But how many people do you tell about God, about what he's doing in your life? For maybe, Barry, and I know I'm going to get really close here. Maybe the only thing that we can show that he's doing in our lives is what happens in the midst of the four walls of the building on Shabbat. And we really don't have any testimony of what he's doing in our daily life to share with others. So maybe the problem, Barry, is not that he doesn't know how to market himself. Maybe the problem is we're bored with the message.
So is it the teacher, preacher, leader person's responsibility to excite up the message so that it is more enthusing and engaging?
Oh yeah, Barry, it's your job. It's not anyone's job to grow House of David or Life Assembly or any. No, that's not the job of the people. That's not the job of the sheep. That's the job of the shepherd. So, but that kind of goes against nature, because when shepherds give birth to sheep, that's abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
A shepherd's job is to make the pasture a place of safety, a place of peace, a place of excitement, a place of nourishing, to where the sheep begin to play. They become excited. So is the excitement that we have for this message limited to the four walls of a building? Because the truth is that we are not excited about what the Father's doing outside of those walls in our lives. I remember, Barry, you talk about the testimonies and things. We had a guy, the Nazarene Church, Tucson, Arizona. We had a guy that started coming, and testimony night, which we had like Sunday night and Wednesday night, we had testimony time. This guy would stand up. I mean, when the pastor said, "Has anybody got a testimony?" That's usually kind of a difficult moment for us. And maybe that's why it's not done much in most of our Messianic Hebrew roots congregations, is because when you say, does anyone have a testimony of what God's doing in your life this week? They look at you like a cow looking at a new gate. What? What are you talking about? And you finally stand there as the leader, and you say, okay, well, I know that it's hard to be number one, so why don't we just kind of skip it? Whoever wants to be number two in line, go ahead and let. And they just sit there and look at you. Barry, this guy, when the pastor says, does anybody have he was like up. He's talking about out there witnessing to people on a daily basis. He's bringing people to church. He's like, hey, I prayed for this person and I prayed for this person this week. And the vast majority of the people in the room were going, wish that guy would shut up. Because someone that's radical, you're back to radical, Barry. Somebody that gets out of the boat bothers those that are in it.
That reminds me of pastoring our first church in a little town of about 6,000 people, paper mill town. And this woman had been coming for a little while. Very timid in a way that she speaks. Not her lifestyle, but I mean, this is a new experience for her. So she was just kind of trying to figure this whole thing out. And she kept requesting prayer for her husband. He ain't going to like this. She called and said, my husband's coming with me to church this morning. When I saw them in the parking lot, I went outside on the front steps and met him on the sidewalk. I shook his hand, introduced myself, and I said, told him I loved him. He looked at me like he was about ready to ball up his fist and punch me in the face.
Yeah, I would have too if you said that to me first time I met you.
The man got born again that morning. Radically. And he later told me, he says, who is this little guy coming up and telling me he loves me? He said, it bugged me. It bothered me. And he said, but I understood you meant it.
Mm-hmm.
That man lit up like fireworks, glowed like an incredible light in the community. He came to the house one morning. He was always there early in the morning and leave his truck running in the front yard for a half hour, 45 minutes while he just came in to tell me something. Couldn't sing a lick, but he would stand back there with his face glowing like candles, hands in the air, tears washing down his face, and singing to the top of his lungs. Mike, this man went down to the river and got driftwood and rocks and fishing lures and kind of just stuff and put it together as a piece of artwork and went in and sold it to businesses to raise money for our congregation.
Wow.
I said, you're taking rocks and sticks and rusty fishing lures and making money? But I mean, he was always looking for something to help to do in bringing people.
Mm-hmm.
He was hard to keep up with. He was a challenge.
Oh, yeah, those people are.
And there were times that I had to kind of reel him in just a little bit and say, here's another way of looking at what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But he was willing to accept correction and help. We need those kind of people. We do, and understand not everyone is the most personable. They have problems talking to strangers, etc. But you're right. There has to be something about us. I encountered a lady yesterday. I went in and picked up some food, and I mentioned something about House of David. She said, we were just talking about wondering what that is. So I said, well, the House of David, this is what we do. And she just kind of looked at me, and I gave her the 10 15-second spiel of, this is who House of David is, what we do.
Yeah.
I said, come on. Or if you're available, on Saturday afternoon, come on by. Love to see you. A big grin came across her face. Mike, I didn't have to go into a theological discussion.
No.
I didn't have to quote a single verse. I just looked her in the eye and smiled, and she smiled back. Well, I just don't know how to say it the way you guys say it. I don't know what I would say. Be genuine and smile at someone. It's amazing how much a smile and a sense of joy in your life will cause somebody to want to engage you. If we're, Mike, if we're here, standing in line, wherever you're at, if this is all that people see, they're not going to engage you. They don't want to bother you.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're open and with a smiling face, pleasant attitude, people who serve you in public saying thank you and grinning at them, there's you an opportunity. Somebody's eventually going to say, something, and it's going to open a door for you to be prepared for a 10 to 15 second something. A little something.
Barry, it's easier than that, okay? I mean, I posted a picture the other day of our pour-in party. I wore my Ronnie Van Zant costume, which I was the prodigal son, and yeah, I kept trying to ask everybody for pork chops, and they'd look at me strange. But that picture got well over 100 views, 100 likes. Okay, and people share. Actually, there's been a couple of people shared it, and people commented. But I'll post a video. I'll post, this video on Facebook. I'll post my Israel update. I'll post the Life on Purpose podcast, which I say so very humbly, but this is one of the greatest programs on the internet right now. These guys, Daniel, Ryan, and David, what they're bringing out right now is relevant. It is for today. It is amazing, but yet it'll be crickets. I mean, thank you, Laura. You're always there, and I'm not talking about your wife, Laura, but I mean, she probably does too. But Laura, the other Laura, we know who it is. She's always the first one to like it. Leave a comment. But very few people leave a comment. Very few people share. What does it take, Barry? How long does it take that you see something like that, and you never know? Well, you have 2, 3, 400, or maybe 10 followers on Facebook. Who's that morning for something to come into their lives of relevance? And how long would it take for you to just share it and say in the comments, somebody needs to hear this? I mean, did that hurt? What's the 10 people that are friends with you on Facebook going to do? Unsubscribe to you? Unfollow you? Whatever. All I'm talking about, Barry, is just being willing to start sharing this message instead of keeping it to ourselves. And if we're keeping it to ourselves, maybe we need to look in the mirror and say, am I really excited about this message, or is it become boring to me?
Mm-hmm. There have, at least in our community, there has been a lot of, what would I say? I'll sort of say overzealous. It's not overzealous. It's canned presentations.
Mm-hmm.
I remember taking a job at a secular business music store, and everything from aging rock stars wannabes to zealous teenagers wanting to pick up the guitar or some other instrument and become a rock star, to church musicians and pastors would come in. And we always laughed at, we could tell, especially it was the first time there, who the pastors were by their haircut coming in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And we was, I bet that one's a pastor.
In the door.
You know, that's a pastor right there. And sure enough, they come in, I'm Reverend so-and-so.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, it was a funny thing. But I watched the secular staff that when someone came in and gave their canned spiel.
Oh, yeah.
That they bit their lip, and when they walked out, they rolled their eyes, or they laughed, or they displayed the resentment and anger for whatever previous experience that they had. And I watched that. And I began to realize sometimes the way to share the message is to ask how the person is doing. What's going on? You know, how is your kids, your family? Or to engage them about a non-spiritual subject and become a friend to them, and then live Yeshua out loud. Let Yeshua's quality of compassion, listening to what someone else has got to say without trying to wait for your chance to jump in and tell them what you think. Honesty, hard work. If you're working on a job and you're wanting to share Messiah, but you're lazy and not doing your job and cutting corners and wasting time, your message is not going to come across correctly. If you're not honest, if you're talking about people behind their back, your message about Yeshua is not going to be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you walk uprightly, if you show genuine concern, sincere compassion and caregiving, if you're polite, if you don't lose your temper when the boss asks you to do something other that you don't want to do, they're going to see and hear Yeshua in you without you having to quote verses to them. And it does work.
You know, I totally agree. As I'm saying about, you know, sharing. Okay, the last thing that I'm talking about is a canned message, because to quote Saint Francis of Assisi, and if I was him, I would have to change my name and where I was from. But he said, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel. Use words if necessary." It's not our words, Barry, it is our actions. Yeah. And so when I talk about, you know, when I open this up with, how do you double House of David? By everyone inviting someone. That process may take a little while for it to begin. Because people, and I'm talking about, you know, Life Assembly, I'm talking whatever, you know, I'm not just throwing House of David out here, but, you know, you brought it up to begin with.
It's my fault.
Of course. The process may take a while to start, to really get going. Because in order to give someone that message of Messiah, you must first earn the right to speak that message into their lives. And you earn the right to speak that message through showing love, showing compassion. I've got a guy that I'm kind of working with right now who's as far from me on the political spectrum as you can get. I mean, he's a little left of Hillary. Yeah. Has no, you know, no need for God at all. But all of a sudden, the Father has just put him in my path. And originally, it was kind of a little tension there, but I'm just trying to love him. I don't say anything to him as far as, you know, witnessing, just trying to be there and show compassion, and love. He grew up Catholic. I found out the other day. He told me, finally, I grew up Catholic, never could figure it out. I didn't say anything. I just went, yeah, I understand. And we moved on. So the process, Barry, but we have to be willing to enter into the process with a person, an individual. And as I said to begin with, quit looking for the next, the greatest, the next movie, the next revival, the next this, the next that, quit looking for it and start looking for and praying for one person that you can just love. And let's see where that goes. Because if you do that on a daily basis, there's no telling what might happen at the end of a month.
It could happen. And what's happened
if you decided, every week I'm going to find one YouTube video. I'm going to find, one teaching that as I listen to it, I think, this is speaking to me, and maybe it'll speak to other people. And I'm not just going to click the like button, but I'm going to comment in there and say, people should listen to this. It's too easy to hit that like button. Leave a comment and then share it. Send it out. Send it to somebody. Send it to somebody individually. Say, I was listening to this message today, and I was remembering a conversation that you and I had last week. And I just thought maybe that this would help you find some answers to some things we were talking about. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
So we do appreciate you sharing Foundations for Life with others. Thank you for several here recently. You've been commenting and sharing insights and responses. Very much appreciated. Feel free. Mike's teachings on Join to Hashem, the 10-minute Torahs, the Shabbat services, Life on Purpose. Stick it out there on your social media pages. Again, you just never know when you're going to influence somebody's life. Someone's going to get curious of what is that, and they may click on it, and they may hear something other that will really impact them.
Yeah.
So, Mike, safe travels, fruit bearing in your teaching and sharing at these congregations. And may Kaya rise up and be comfort and protection to Kathy in your absence.
Yeah, the brat.
Thank you so much for you watching today, and we appreciate it very much. So, Mike, next week. Till then, shalom, brother.